Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're not just going to talk about code, we're actually mapping out an entire adventure. We're going to chart a course through one of the most powerful tools on the entire web, JavaScript. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it when you click a button and a menu just appears, or your social media feed updates itself without you even touching the refresh button? Well, that's not magic, but it's pretty darn close. It's the power of JavaScript, and we're about to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it all works. All right, so this is our call to adventure, right? Finally understanding what JavaScript actually is. Think of it as the engine that powers all the dynamic, interactive parts of the websites we use every single day. You know, the best way to get this is to think of a website as a house. You've got HTML, which is the structure, the walls, the roof. Then you have CSS, which is all the style, the paint color, the furniture. But JavaScript is the electricity and the plumbing. It's what makes the house a living, breathing, functional home. Okay, so every good adventurer needs a toolkit, right? For us coders, those first tools are the absolute building blocks for how we manage information. Let's dig in and see what makes up our foundation. Look, before you can do any of the cool stuff, you've got to have a way to, remember things. A player's score, a username, the price of something in a cart. That's where variables come in. Just think of them as labeled boxes where you can store any piece of information you're gonna need later. So what goes into these boxes? Well, think of it like your starter inventory in a video game. It's pretty straightforward. You've got numbers for all your math, you've got strings, which is just a fancy word for text, and you have arrays, which are basically just lists to keep things organized. These are the absolute fundamentals. Yeah, at the end of the day, computers are just really, really good calculators. And JavaScript is no exception. It's got all the tools you need for basic math. Adding, subtracting, you name it, right out of the box. Anytime you see text on a website, a username, a headline, a comment, what you're actually looking at is a string. That's it. It's just the programmer's word for a piece of text. And JavaScript gives us tons of ways to manage it. So how do we stay organized when we have a whole bunch of stuff? I mean, instead of making a dozen different variables, we can just use an array. Think of it like a backpack where you can neatly store a whole collection of things, like a list of high scores or all the items in your shopping cart. All right, we've gathered our tools. Now for the really fun part, learning the spells. This is where we give our code some logic, the ability to make decisions. We turn it from just a list of instructions into something that can actually think. And the first two big spells you're going to learn are conditionals and loops. Conditionals are all about making decisions, like if the user is logged in, then show their profile picture. Easy. And loops, they're all about repetition. For every item in the shopping cart, display its price. One's for choosing a path, the other's for putting tasks on autopilot. Okay, but what happens when you find yourself writing the exact same lines of code over and over again? Well, that's a huge waste of time, right? Enter functions. A function is basically a reusable recipe. You write the instructions just once, you give it a simple name like calculate total, and then you just call that name whenever you need that recipe. It's a game changer for staying organized. Okay, we've got our tools, we've learned the basic spells, now it's time to actually do something. This is where we take our code and use it to change what the user sees and experiences on the actual web page. Seriously, just think about it for a second. You click a like button, you start typing in a search bar, you hit submit on a form. How in the world does the code know you did that? How does it know what to do next? The answer is surprisingly simple. Events. That's it. That's the magic. JavaScript is basically just sitting there, listening for these events. A mouse click, a key press, someone scrolling down the page. And we write code that says, hey, JavaScript, when you hear a click event on that button, I want you to run this specific function. That's how we connect what the user does to what our code does. So, if our code is going to change the page, it needs a map, right? A blueprint. That blueprint is called the DOM. It represents the entire structure of the web page as a live object. JavaScript can read this blueprint to find any element, a button, a paragraph, an image, and then change it on the fly. You can make a button's text change from click me to clicked, or delete something, or even add brand new stuff to the page. But what about all that data that shows up without you hitting refresh? Think of a weather app pulling in the latest forecast. That happens with a network request. Our code sends a request to a server asking for new data, and the server sends it back, usually in a super simple text format called JSON. Then our JavaScript can read that JSON and update the page instantly. And there you have it. That's the map. That's the whole beginner's journey for JavaScript. Now, it might seem like a lot when you see it all at once, but it really is a clear, logical path that takes you from the absolute basics all the way to building something real. And look, this journey, it pretty much always follows the same path. You start by learning how to store information. Then you learn how to write logic to do things with that information. After that, you connect all your logic to the web page itself to make it interactive. And then, the most important step of all, you practice, practice, practice. This roadmap isn't just a suggestion. It's a proven path. There's a reason we learn it this way. Mastering these core concepts, storing data, writing logic, and interacting with the page is what gives you that solid foundation. It's the sturdy ground that you can build literally anything you want on top of. So there you go, the map is officially in your hands. The path is laid out right in front of you. The only question left is, where is your adventure going to take you? What's the first thing you're going to build?